Before you listen, if you enjoy the stories and want to hear more, then please consider subscribing. Most of you listening aren't subscribed, so please take this time to subscribe. Turn on notifications so you'll never miss a story and be the first to hear. You'll also be supporting me. Thank you. Scoring a cherry red 1967 Mustang Convertible on Craigslist for just $5,800 felt too good to be true. The gleaming pawnee car just needed some tender loving care according to the listing after sitting idle in long-term storage. As a wanted grease monkey with more time than money, I took the bait and drove 2 hours to meet the seller at a 7-Eleven parking lot. Pulling up next to the gleaming crimson classic idling under the fluorescent glow, my inner skeptic remained deafened by rumbling V8 music. The car radiated kinetic energy like a wild bronco waiting to bolt. Inside I found worn leather seats, polished wood grain dash showing slight cracks, and a fading paper dealer sticker still clinging to the passenger window as artifacts of bygone eras. The odometer read 88,724 miles, but something about the Mustang felt eager to devour road trips, rather than destined for a museum display case quite yet. The seller was a 40-something guy named Kurt with a missing incisor who eyed me up and down warily. "You sure the type who can handle 400 horses under that good kid?" His sharp question held no trace of doubt I could easily cough out the asking price. Attired in threadbare jeans with motor oil stains, I likely resembled an aimless tire kicker rather than qualified buyer. But after a brief test drive where the Mustang hugged curves like a dream, I peeled off crisp bills that depleted my savings but secured the title. That first night as I proudly parked my flashy new toy in the driveway, doubts flickered about sinking so much cash into an old fixer-upper. The peeling clear coat suddenly signified countless potential issues hiding beneath the sleek exterior, but visions of tuner magazines featuring my custom restoration calmed those fears. I had plucked a forgotten gem from gloomy oblivion in that 7-Eleven parking lot. At dawn, I eagerly slid behind the worn wheel, ready to cruise into work-blaring classic rock. Turning the key spawned only lifeless clicks. After 20 futile attempts, I popped the hood to troubleshoot before resorting to banging my head against the non-functioning steering wheel. 2 fruitless hours later, I had to ring a coworker for a humiliating ride instead of rolling up in my so-called hot rod. Further inspection revealed the starter itself turned fine, but spun without engaging the engine. I cleared my schedule that night after work to really get elbow-deep sorting through problems. Only then, crawling under the Mustang, did I notice the license plate seemed oddly crisp compared to the weathered surfaces around it. Stamped with vintage 60s graphics and chrome screws securing the corners, closer scrutiny showed subtle inconsistencies between materials and typeface formats of various digits and letters. Unease started creeping up my spine as I slid back out and randomly checked band plates around the interior. The numbers engraved on the dashboard partition failed to match those printed onto the door sticker, which also varied ever so slightly from the title documentation in my glove box. Someone had gone to elaborate lengths to disguise this car's true origins and likely issues. Instead of a charmingly preserved relic, I had grossly overpaid for a convincing deception. Furious, I scrambled to gather every shred of communication from Kurt the seller, but he had insisted we only correspond via temporary texting apps and cash payment. No paper trail led back to whoever unloaded this false beauty rather than the authentic Mustang of my dreams. The orange glow of sunset suddenly felt ominous rather than picturesque, spilling across my stranded ride's glossy hood. What else didn't I know about the vehicle's past and murky identity? I spent another 14 hours scouring forums, seeking advice and hunting court records about previous attempts toward legal action. Plenty of similar anecdotes existed, yet few offered happy resolutions. Fighting internet fraudsters often proved resource-intensive with minimal payout. And the alarming gaps in tracing this particular vehicle's history signaled that diving deeper might surface uglier truths. Had I aided and abetted unwittingly participating in an auto theft ring? Chop shop supply chain. My head throbbed from staring at blurry web pages until sunlight started creeping in the living room windows. With frustrated resignation, I shuffled back outside to stare numbly at the bulbous beauty crowding my driveway, unable to revisit the upwelling joy I'd originally felt behind the wheel. Now the symbol of personal promise tasted like bitter betrayal of my own blindness. but determination hardened my heart against surrendering complete defeat. I might be stuck for the moment with this lemon, but I would slowly peel back its secrets no matter what rot lived beneath the shiny skin I had so foolishly coveted from a calculated hustler. I invested in a bottle of cheap whiskey and set to removing every body panel methodically that Saturday, tensing for contraband or corpses to come cascading out like a morbid piñata. All I found instead was amateur patches hiding shoddy repairs and structural rust bubbles. Worse cosmetic damage than represented for sure, but not the level of pure evil my creeping paranoia imagined. No scratch in the glossy paint could fully conceal the painful lesson I had bought regarding assumed integrity, though. Having reached bare metal carcass with only my own foolish reflection glaring back, I nearly grabbed a sledgehammer to pulverize the haunting reminder mocking me from the driveway. But ultimately financial realities rule against destroying my expensive psychological anchor, holding me tethered to past potentialities before charting some alternative course, correcting my circuitous route forward. Monday morning instead witnessed the Mustang chugging down streets towards my part-time auto mechanic gig, rather than the glamorous image in my original rear-view fantasies. As I rolled up next to the logo-wrapped tow truck in front of Joe's house of pot rods, my phone dinged a new message notification. The temporary number I didn't recognize, but the words struck instant recognition. Saw you cruising the Stang. Pretty cherry ride, got any others to unload, lol. Hands trembling in rage, I typed back my vow to the scammer that one day we would meet again face to face under far less fortuitous circumstances for him rather than me once more eating bitter dust lingering in his dirty wake. I had snatched up a killer deal on Craigslist for a Trek road bike and borrowed my roommate's truck to pick up the goods. Meeting strangers from sketchy online listings always carries some risk, but as a cash-strapped college student, scoring quality gear at a steep discount outweighed potential flags. Hopping out of the rumbling vehicle, I scanned for signs of life around the neglected property. Faded red paint peeled from damp wooden siding, and several shattered windows wore makeshift cardboard patches rather than glass. The screen door whined on rusty hinges as a hulking figure emerged on the creaking porch. Introducing himself as Jake, the burly seller lit a cigarette and eyed me up and down while exhaling still smoke. The whole scene felt ripped from every warning poster about stranger danger lurking online, but the promise of a flashy new bike kept me trailing after Jake's lumbering steps towards the rear garage. He rifled through a ring of keys, pausing to huck up phlegm and spit on the oil-stained concrete floor before raising the rattling aluminum door. Relief washed over me seeing the black and gold Trek road bike propped against concrete block shelves, housing various rusted tools. I hurried over to inspect its gleaming frame and slick wheels still ready to eat up miles of open road. Psyched at the prospect of owning this quality bicycle rather than my current clunky beater from the thrift store. As I eagerly asked Jake questions about the bike's specs, his foot scuffed through the dust and dead leaves, littering the garage floor, revealing a pile of beer cans and discarded fast food bags. She's basically brand new, he asserted. Just couldn't get my fat ass on that tiny seat, so gave up road riding quick. His wheezing laugh made my earlier misdoings flare up, but that sweet new ride gleamed tantalizingly under the bare bulb lighting the sketchy setup. I reminded myself this was just a standard Craigslist exchange. Meet in a public place in daylight, hit what you pay for, move on with life. Still, my guard stayed up calming over the bike, half expecting to find some deal-breaking flaw that justified the rock-bottom $200 asking price. The more I examined it, though, the higher caliber it looked. No scratches or rust. Quality cogs and gears. Firm brake pads. My adrenaline surged imagining cruising the wooded campus trails on this elite machine. I told Jake I would take it as he hacked up another wad of grimy flame. You, want to knock off another $20 bucks for my trouble? He asked, wiping his mouth with the back of a meaty hand. Since you made me dig this beauty back out. I hesitated before the hulking figure with his pit-stained shirt and 3-day-old stubble, reeking of stale cigarettes. Another 20 was nothing for a bite this legit, so I shrugged and grabbed 5 more crisp bills from my wallet. As soon as the cash hit his palm, Jake's whole energy shifted. Beady eyes narrowed as thick fingers clamped down on my arm with alarming force. Not so fast, you little shit, he growled, stale breath hot on my face. Gonna bleed you for all the cash you got stuffed in that girly wallet. Panicked indignation flooded my system as I roughly tried yanking my arm back from his vice-like clutch. I was taller than this beer-gutted bully, but severely outweighed by dense muscle earned from years of physical labor judging by Jake's calloused hands. We tussled back and forth, knocking over dusty beer cans and rusty tools. My pulse roared in my ears as fear of being overpowered vied with anger at this brazen betrayal. I managed to land a sucker punch to Jake's nose, which erupted in hot blood, but earned me an enraged backhand in retaliation. Vision dazed, I reeled backwards, still grappling against the burly figure trying to wrestle away my wallet as promised. Jake easily snatched it from my floundering grasp, but not before I sank my teeth into the meaty flesh of his forearm. He howled in pain, hurling me to the oil-stained floor as cracked concrete exploded my elbow in agony. I cradled my throbbing arm with tears of frustration streaming down my face at this nightmarish bait and switch. Through the garage door left gaping open, salvation suddenly rolled into sight. A battered pickup truck with Earl's Electric signs on the side rattled down the potholed driveway, slowing to a halt beside my still-running vehicle. A weathered worker in dusty dickies peered out, no doubt baffled by the scuffle unfolding inside the dilapidated garage. Without hesitation, I screamed at the top of my lungs for help. Jake wilted immediately, his heavy steps thundering away through a side door. Cash still clutched in one fist, he chose self-preservation over finishing his attempted mugging. The electrician remained frozen in surprise, so I screamed again, "Call ambulance, I'm hurt bad." This finally jolted him into action. As he grabbed for his cell phone, I gingerly dragged myself outside towards a stranger already proving more honorable than the Craigslist crook who lured me out to this house of horrors. I wavered on unsteady legs, answering the electrician's concerned questions in between pained hisses through gritted teeth. My right elbow swelled like a grapefruit, but fiery anger fueled my shaken spirit. No way would I let this grubby criminal claim victory after his deceitful assault. I spat blood still lingering in my bitten mouth and told the worker I wanted that thieving lowlife to face justice. From the house's darkened interior, a door slammed loudly, followed by the screech of tires. By the time a patrol car arrived 15 endless minutes later, Jake had clearly fled the crime scene. I recounted every detail to the deputy, from the misleading bike listing to the unexpected violent mugging. I refused medical transport against protocol, wanting that vile crook tracked down before he targeted another victim. The electrician backed up my story with shocked empathy, admitting he knew the property owner to have a shady reputation, yet never witnessed such blatant violence unfold. After filing my report, I trudged back behind the garage. My new bike still glinted perfectly in place amidst the carnage of scuffed concrete and drying blood. Hot shame flooded my face, even having to document losing $200 cash to such a dirty scam. At least I escaped relatively intact, if not exactly richer, from this lessons learned about real life being starkly grittier than rosy optimism of youth. As I wheeled the truck outside, the electrician shook his head in stunned disbelief. "You got balls of steel, kid. Craziest thing I ever saw trying to score deals off the internet." Bruised, powdered but not fully broken, I secured my unlikely victory ride home. The deputy assured me that lowlife Jake would turn up again sooner or later in their system. And next time I peered through the imperfect looking glass of money-saving online deals, memories of this luring trap would surely resurface before eagerly grasping at gritty fool's gold again. I nudged open the door of the coffee shop with my shoulder, both hands gripped around the banker's box of 90s computer games I had posted on Craigslist. Moving to a smaller apartment meant major downsizing, and these nostalgic discs from my childhood were among items that didn't make the cut. I had jumped at the $50 offer for the lot from a supposed retro gaming enthusiast. Extra cash before my upcoming move couldn't hurt. Scanning the busy cafe, no one stood out as my eager buyer. I awkwardly shuffled to a corner table to wait, setting down the archive box showcasing faded rainbow labels peeling from countless floppy disks and CD-ROMs. As I grabbed my buzzing phone to check for any updates, the facing chair squeaked against the concrete floor. I glanced up, assuming my purchaser had arrived, but struggled not to recoil instinctively from the hulking figure that had materialized opposite me. The bulbous man must have weighed 400 pounds, crammed unsteadily onto a petite wooden chair. A strange triple XL Pokemon t-shirt barely contained the overflowing pale flesh in his torso. Ratty cargo shorts exposed pasty legs marbled with varicose veins. He gave a thin smile that came out as more of a pained wince from behind his unkempt beard. Runny hazel eyes raked over me, then darted anxiously around the cafe as if worried of being spotted in public. Something about him radiated a kind of nervous, volatile energy that instantly raised my guard. Trying to get through this transaction quickly, I gestured towards the archive box between us containing the various title stacks. The man grunted approvingly in a guttural tone as a meat-paw rifled through the goods. I chords. Most were standard grade school yearbook candidates, rowing team, marching band, awkward braces. Nothing remotely scandalous, but the invasive request instantly nettled me. A stark confusion must have registered because the man held up his palms defensively. Whoa, sorry. Just figured you might have some rare stuff to offer a dedicated collector. Before I could respond to this baffling statement, he redirected. So, have you got a boyfriend? Thick fingers resumed pawing through the box, sending floppy disks and plastic jewel cases askew. I fought the urge to grab the goods back and walk straight out as I formulated an exit strategy. The evasive nature combined with probing personal questions were sending up every red flag. Listen, I don't feel comfortable with this line of talk, I said evenly, trying not to further agitate the unpredictable stranger. Let's just finish our business. The man looked poised to argue when an exuberant toddler suddenly careened into our table. Chubby hands grasped at the retro computer games now spilled over the edge. I took advantage of the disruption to pull the box out of gravity reach. The man scowled down at the babbling child before glancing sheepishly around like he hoped no one witnessed this encounter. The overburdened single mom trailing after the kid threw me an apologetic look. As she scooped up the fussy toddler, I surprised myself by calling out, "Excuse me, I was wondering if you would mind if I joined your table for a few minutes. I have a work call." Before the flustered mom could respond, I was gathering up my stuff and trailing after her family to a cozy corner bench facing the street. Something about their wholesome normalcy promised safety from the odd lurker I had almost sold my belongings to alone. I could feel laser eyes tracking me as I settled onto the bench across from the young family. Mercifully, the eager little boy provided further buffer, busying himself ripping napkins into confetti as his mom half-heartedly scolded the mess. 15 endless minutes passed before my prior table lay vacant, a few stray game discs the only evidence of the unsettling encounter. With profuse thanks to my temporary haven providers, I quickly gathered the picked-over box and headed to the counter to settle my modest tab. Stepping back out into the merciless summer heat, I scanned the crowded sidewalks for any sign of the ominous weirdo. Part of me wondered if I should report him, but to who? For what? Asking invasive questions wasn't technically illegal, however much it unsettled me. I decided to let it go as an awkward incident and just get home. But as I walked the 3 blocks to my car, the feeling of unseen eyes tracing my path never quite faded. I caught myself peering down alleys and waiting for footsteps behind me that never came. The initial $50 enticement to a risky meetup suddenly felt pathetic compared to the lingering creepiness that would surely follow me into restless dreams. As the following weeks passed and moving logistics took over, the unnerving coffee shop scene gradually faded, until I returned home one afternoon to an unexpected package on my doorstep. My stomach dropped seeing the all too familiar rainbow prints of retro video games peeking through the mailed cardboard box. Scrawled on top and in childlike script read, "Found some more to add to your collection, my fair lady." I left the unsolicited gift abandoned in the hallway for days, afraid to even touch whatever warped intentions lay inside. When I finally mustered the nerve, I used gloved hands to gingerly lift an envelope tucked among the haphazard tapes and discs. No return address or name, just my address penned in spidery strokes. The letter inside rambled about transferring my passions and proving we were destined to intertwine outside a callous world. As I sank to the floor, clutching the unhinged ranting, every shadow in my nearly empty apartment suddenly looked like it could conceal the sender return to claim me. The next day, I drove to 3 different post offices to mail a money order refund along with the unrequested box. No desire to fuel further contact kept me from adding any note explaining why. The less engagement, the better. Still, I jumped at every unknown number that buzzed my phone in the following weeks. On moving day, I scrutinized every passing vehicle, wondering if depraved eyes sought me behind tinted glass. But the lurking stranger who hoped to lay claim from a chance cafe encounter never again emerged, and I vowed to keep anything that could reveal one's home address far away from public listings forevermore. Thanks for listening in. If you like these stories and want to hear more, then please subscribe and like and support this new channel. We have more stories for you to listen to.